Hello everybody and welcome to a new video. Now, this video isn't like one of the normal ones I'd make. Normally mine's about positive things. However, today's video, I'll be talking about something that's rather pointless. And it's this game right here. Megadimemsion Neptunia V2R. Now, just as a bit of background, okay? I love Neptunia. Neptunia is one of my favorite JRPG franchises. I tried to toss it, but that's okay. It's my finger. Neptunia is one of my favorite JRPG franchises. And one of my favorite Japanese franchises in general, along with practically anything Nintendo makes. Persona, and just some of those other JRPGs, I'm sure. Yokai Watch. Of course, Yokai Watch, well, I'll have a whole big thing about that, but that's not the topic of today's video. So, today's topic of the video is Megadimemsion Neptunia V2R. And it's a game which I call a pointless remake. So, let me give you some backstory. So there are the original Neptunia games on PS3. There was, I have them here, if I can just get them real quick. I believe this one? Yep, it is. So, there were 3 original Neptunia games for PS3. And that was the original Hyperdimension Neptunia, Hyperdimension Neptunia Mark II, and Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory. This one was 2011, 2012, 2013, respectively. And eventually, over time, those 3 games ended up getting remakes on the PS Vita. Rebirth 1. I only have a Japanese version of Rebirth 3, which is called Rebirth 3 V Century, instead of V Generation, which is what the localized name was. And there was Rebirth 2 Sisters Generation, and I have English versions of Rebirth 3 and Rebirth 2 digital because the physical versions are so hard to find because, well, the Vita didn't sell well. And so, all 3 of those games got remakes because the combat in the first game was a little wonky, and by wonky I mean plain bad. So, they decided, you know what, we're going to take the first 3 Neptunia games and remake them on the ground up with new engine, with the I don't know if it was a new engine, might have just been a repurposed old engine, the new combat from Mark II and Victory, which is the style that is good, because in the original one, in the original Neptunia, it was all random, it was like all random encounters. And also to help fix the continuity. In the good ending, or true ending, of the original Hyperdimension Neptunia, the CPUs go to lead normal lives as humans and die of old age. Now, that doesn't really leave room for sequels. And so, essentially starting with Mark II, they made the original first game not canon at all. And so, that's also another reason why the remakes exist, is that it would help make a timeline that would make more sense. So basically, in the true ending of Rebirth 1, the CPU candidates get born, being Nepgear for Planetoon, Neptune's younger sister, Uni for Lastation, Noir's younger sister, Rom and Ram for Blonde and the nation of Louis, and VIIR, she doesn't get any. And that's because Microsoft has not made a handheld games console. Basically, the whole Neptunia series is taking a bunch of video game related stuff, making it into cute anime girls. That's why so many people like it. But yeah, so that's pretty much why the remakes exist. And then we move on to Megadimemsion Neptunia V2. Now, call me biased, because V2 was my first Nep game, and my favorite one, actually. And the general consensus for V2 is that nothing needed to be changed with it. It was good as is. And then they release V2R. And in my opinion, V2R actually reduces the quality of Megadimemsion Neptunia V2. Now, for the remakes, that's where everyone says to get into the series with Rebirth 2, Rebirth 3, Rebirth 1. People say that because like, oh, it's the most up-to-date, you know, it's the most recent with the lore and all that. And so people were like, yeah, that makes sense. And then V2R comes along. And first of all, the game opens up by basically saying, hey, you're going to be seeing past events again. And for someone who may be getting into the series with V2R, you know, that first thing will send them mixed signals. Because I imagine people will look at V2R as more of a sequel game than a remake. You know? Let's just cut straight to the point. The only thing V2R introduces into the system is a VR mode. Now, the VR mode, it's great, you know. It's cool. I like the VR mode. However, it's essentially the only thing that V2R adds to the game. They dumbed down the combat from the combat originally. Actually, I'm going to just prop my camera up here so that way I can talk better. Yeah? Cool. So, they also really... Originally, the combat is snappy. Like, you'll do your string of rush, power, standard attacks, you know. You'll just press your buttons, you'll go, and it'll be quick and snappy. However, in V2R, it's a lot more slower and methodical because they added action points. Now, I'm not saying that having slow combat in an RPG is bad. I'm not saying that at all. But when you make the combat that was originally so snappy and fluid, and you could go from attack 1 to 2 in like such little time, to going to some to where you have your action points. Oh, gotta make sure I have the right amount of action points to do it. And then you go. Then it has select, and then it says, do you want to select this? You hit OK. And then you go like that for the rest of the fight. It gets so tedious to me. Now this is all my personal opinion. I'm sure some people might think that combat system is way better than than what the original V2 was. But I haven't met anyone who says that, so I'm not holding my breath. But, I'm open-minded for this. So, they took the combat that was so snappy and so fluid and just didn't really have anything wrong with it. And then just dumbed it down. Made it a lot slower. And also, one other reason I consider V2 to be, not V2, V2R to be pointless. I thought I saw something fall. Never mind. The reason why I consider V2R to be pointless is because, V2 was so recent. Like, it was released 2015, 2016, and it really didn't need anything done. Like, with the case of Rebirth 1, 2, and 3, the original games had released close to the end of the PS3's life cycle. And plus also the games were kind of flawed anyway. So they said, hey, we'll remake it, work out some of the problems with it, and make it better, which they did. And it went on to be on PC and Vita. Same with all the other NEP spin-offs, except for Four Goddesses Online, which was essentially, you would get it on Vita, and then a year later, there would be a PC release. Or I'd say about a year later. Anywhere from a couple months to a year later. And also another reason why I think V2R is pointless is because the VR, the ideas that they could do with VR is, it's endless. I feel like if they weren't comfortable using a mainline game with it, they could easily make a spin-off game with VR. And now that I think about it, the upcoming Neptunia Virtual Stars, which is to release in about a month or so, because as of the time of recording this video, it's February 7th, I think? Yep, February 7th. So, considering that Neptunia Virtual Stars, or VVVtunia as it's known in Japan, is releasing in less than a month, you know, I feel like they could have also done the VR with that. And like, but they decided to go with VTubers, which, you know, VTubers the hot thing right now. By the way, for all my VTuber fans, Mori Calliope Supremacy. But I'm just thinking, you know, they could have taken that idea for VR and just worked it into its unique story. So, at the end of the day, here are my 3 points here are my points as to why V2R is a pointless remake. 1, it does not change anything substantial that would, well, I mean, the base game did not require anything to be changed for it to be substantially better. Number 2, the VR mode is essentially the only thing that they added into the game. And number 3 is the combat is a lot worse, with it being a lot slower. So, I'm sure you all would already know, but do I suggest playing the original V2 or V2R? You go with the original V2. A lot better combat. I feel like the presentation sometimes looks a lot better. But, I mean, yeah, just go with the original V2. I'm not going to bother explaining. There's a ton of people out there who can explain it, and honestly, I can't really do a good job at explaining. But thank you for coming to my, was it like 11.5-minute rant about a Japanese role-playing game about cute girls who are personified video game consoles and companies and references and all that. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!